Hello and welcome. It's me, Percita, and this is Percita's Paradox. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I so appreciate you and all you do to keep this channel going and thriving. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much, as always, for coming on and giving me your time on this thing called YouTube. And if you are an OG, you know the drill. As always, thank you so much for joining me. If you could be so kind from this point to like, share, and comment before I can even get started. Let's just put that on the table and make sure that we are doing all those good things. And other than that, you know what we're here to do? We're here to chat it up and figure out what we're going to do with our week. So last week, I can't even get back to tell you anything more than it was pretty amazing. Life has just been trial, a lot of trials, a lot of errors, but a lot of growth, a lot of excitement, a lot of things that I thought I couldn't really accomplish in my life. I don't know. I really had put limits on myself that I didn't realize I had done. And I'm pretty excited about just the premise of really opening myself up to people and new friends. And, I used to have this mantra of no new friends, but, some of my old friends had to be let go, right? I mean, I had to really get it going and figuring out that they weren't necessarily bad friends. They just were not in a space that I could really say that I needed them to be, right? And I know that sounds crazy because if you remember, I kept talking about where the girl's at and I want to find my tribe. And I am so thankful that God is amazing. And he actually heard that prayer. And I have been tied to some people that I didn't really recognize in my life prior. And I'm so happy that they have allowed me into their lives and vice versa, because it has been an amazing journey to acquire newfound love and support for people that have always been there and I just didn't recognize, and some that are new. So I just wanted to come on board and acknowledge that today and just say, wow, I'm super stoked, super duper stoked about it. So what else can we talk about today? Well, let's talk about just what we're looking for in our growth. How do you define growth is the question today. I'll say it again. How do you define growth? And when I say that, I want to be really clear on, I'm not talking about necessarily any one particular thing. So you could pull from the sky on what we're talking about in regards to your growth. I just want to know how you define it. And you may say, well, then it depends on what I'm talking about to define how I'm growing. That's what I used to say. But I realized growth actually across the board just means progression. So how do you progress is what I'm basically trying to say. How do you put yourself in a place that you're ready to be in a receiving place? And, we do a lot of God is good and, without God type conversation. But what I'm starting to recognize is that there's this part of our thankfulness that we just don't always give as much acknowledgement to. And today I just wanted to touch on that and say, how do you grow? How do you define it? For me, it's just been this idea of understanding that I can fail and fail so happily. I didn't really think failure felt as good as it does, but it actually does, if you could believe that. It actually does, because it makes me be aware of not only what I'm capable of as far as my self-efficacy is concerned, and it gives me that idea of what I know that I can master, but it also gives me an idea of what I know and what I don't know. And when I say that, it kind of puts you in a space of well, don't you, assess that often? You kind of do and you kind of don't. Some things I realized in my life, particularly, that I felt like I had mastered, I'd never really challenged myself on it. It equates to, I tell you all the time that I'm an athlete, and I've always been an athlete. And because that is the key, I haven't really been out on the track, right? I haven't really ran a race in a while. Now, I know that I could run, but I haven't ran a race. It would be me actually getting back onto the track to assess how fast I was based on the current speed of a person that would be running. Now, you would say, well, how exactly would you assess that? Well, you'd have to assess it with the person who's running when you last gauged yourself. So then what if I told you the last time that I actually ran on any sense of professional level, I would have been 17, 18 years old. So I'd gauge myself off of the 17, 18-year-olds of today. Notice how I would know off the bat that I would not be up to par, because there would be no way that I could gauge that. So it's almost considered not a fair assessment, right? But truth is that that's what I'm basing my success on. I'm basing my success on the last time that I was on the track. And if that be the case, then I'd have to go back to assess from that point how successful I would be today. So why I say that is that then when you start to recognize that you really don't always keep things up to date. It equates to a lot of us have gone on to, graduate school or postgraduate school and, move beyond high school and so on and so forth. But the idea of going back to school could be scary to some people due to the fact that you haven't been. Meaning you understand that you've graduated, but you might not be up to snuff in regards to the way the teachings are handled now. If we look at life like that, if we actually approach it in a manner of understanding that we should actually continue to do things, even the things that we have already in our mind mastered, to make sure in assessment that we actually are still up to snuff, is why I'm telling you I'm starting to enjoy failing, because in that fail, I learn how to grow. I learn what I need to do and how I need to do it, where it is that I need to put my efforts, and where I need to actually eliminate some things. And I'm just starting to recognize that without that failure, it doesn't allow me to grow. So when I tell you over the last couple of weeks, I have done nothing but fail. Absolutely nothing but fail. And it has been the best thing I have ever done, because it has given me new direction on what it is that I need to change and how I need to move and how I need to grow. Because growing for me is progression. Growing for me is positive. Growing for me is something that I want to do, and I want to do it in all aspects of my life. I mean, we talk about the simple stuff, the tangible stuff, the I don't want to be broke, the I don't want to be unhealthy. To me, those are general, tangible things. But when I'm talking about growth, I'm talking about the way that I move in regards to my emotions, in regards to my anxieties, in regards to just my mindset, in regards to how I actually strategize and do things. It's a completely different dynamic. I mean, it's something as simple as if you think about Instagram, for example. I mean, that's been social media topic for a while in regards to the marketing world that I'm in and out of. And in saying that, there's the algorithm thing that we're always talking about. And it's a continuous change that no one can quite seem to figure out, because it's always changing. But outside of it always being in a change dynamic, it's something that if you are not paying attention to the fact that it's changing, you'll continue to do things the way that you've always done them, because you may have seen some sense of success from that, and you feel like, then I don't really need to change. Or my favorite, the type of person who's like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing because I've been doing this a long time, but yet they've never gotten to where they want to be. It's because they're too egotistical to understand that you don't know what you're doing. And if you did know what you were doing, you'd be in a place where you would be where you're trying to go. And you might say, well, isn't that a little, arrogant to say? They don't know what they're doing. Not in the current state. Remember, I'm always talking about old facts and new facts. And facts are facts. And maybe that person would have known what they were doing 10 years ago. But it's a continuum. If we're always talking about things like Instagram changing and the algorithm of life changing, then we clearly understand that there's no way to really be a master of anything. At one point or another, you're going to be challenged, and you're going to be in a position of having to create something new to grow, because things are going to change around you. Environment has no respect of anyone's particular mastering skills. It is going to continuously shift and change, and you have to be in a mindset of understanding, even though you won yesterday, you may not win today. Equated to basketball or football or any sport in the world, they could have been champions in 2022, but there's going to always be someone and something happening that's going to be trying to chase the next year's trophy. So with that being said, trying to be ready and trying to be prepared and trying to continue to grow means you have to fail in order to do it, because you actually have to trial and error in order to grow. There's no way to do it. Even if you're doing something like cooking, in order to be a great cook, you'd have to keep trying to figure out what you want the taste of the food to be in order for you to be considered great. You couldn't just say, I did it once and I'm fantastic and I know that that's what it is. Even when you feel like you've mastered a recipe, a great cook, progressive cook, a growing cook is going to always have something else up their sleeve. They're going to always, and you are literally continuing to allow yourself to fail so that you can continue to grow. There's nothing really to worry about. You're just going to always bring your A game. You're going to always be in a position to be able to do what it is you need to do in order to keep growing. Who's to say that that same team wants to be a team, that will go together the next year? Maybe they want to trade. Maybe the players say that they want to retire. You never know. I'm just telling you that I'm super excited that I'm allowing myself to fail. And it took me some years to really understand that, and really these last few to really master the idea of like, it really is cool to fail. Because what it means is that I'm always doing something. It means that I'm always willing to be in a space to do something instead of just talking about it. I mean, why not me, right? We have this idea of like all this stuff that we want to achieve in life and all that we feel like we should do. But a lot of us really still don't feel like it's a why not me. It's a why should you not be able to do the things you want to do, or why should you not be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve. It's like romanticize yourself a little bit. Understand that you are worthy and you can fail, because there's really no one's place to tell you, oh, you shouldn't do that because it's gonna hurt you or you're gonna fail. Most people are giving you their fears, and when you allowing someone into that space, it's gonna be crazy. But also don't be the person that just simply says like, you know what? I'm going to try it once. Don't try it once, because if you're only trying it once, then you really are not about that failed life. You really are about literally trying to just almost indirectly, subliminally prove to yourself that what you think you know, you know. If you are the only person you're talking to, if you only have the same 2, 3, 4, 5 people in your world that you're talking to, trying to be different and better and growing, I'm going to challenge you today to say it's time for you to branch out. It's time for you to take some criticism. It's time for you to have that hard talk with yourself to say, I may not be reaching my goals because I'm not willing to fail from an emotional place. I'm not willing to fail from a receptive place. I'm not willing to fail because the people that I would tell my dreams to may just be willing to only tear it down, and they don't want to see me grow. There's always going to be the people in your life who are there just to be in your life, to be that beacon of light for you. And that's fantastic. But if you can only handle people telling you how great you are, if you can only handle the idea of everyone has to be in agreement with what you choose, I'm going to challenge you today to say, enough. Go and find you someone who's willing to challenge your thoughts and your perspective, and see if that makes you want to grow. See if it takes you out of this idea of arrogance, of you just know it all. Because I promise you, the one thing about life is that you really don't know it all. And even in saying that, we still sit and talk to the same people and do the same things and get the same feedback because it's safe. And I am saying to you that what I'm learning, my growth is being able to take all of that in, and not only take it in, but embrace it. And not only embrace it, but apply it, and understand that there's things that I really need to do that are not a hater telling me information, or it's not a person that's necessarily against me. Now, this does take discernment. It does take the ability to be able to know what your spirit is saying to you. So it is a little deeper than just simply going out and just talking to anybody who's like, yes, sir, yeah, ma'am, you ain't nothing and you need to change your life. You really have to make sure that the people that you're listening to are at least going towards what your goal is, or who've reached it. But they may be the type of people who are going to tell you that you need to take a different direction. I challenge you to say, can you listen to that? Can you hear that? Can you really be one with that to say, I'm willing to do it? Or are you going to really sit and spin your wheels and go like, that's going to be hard, or I'm going to have to start all over again? And what about all the stuff that I've already done? I don't want to do that. It's not going to be easy, but I promise you, if you're willing to do different, if you're willing to do and fail and do again and fail and do again and fail and do again until the doing becomes done, I promise you, you will not regret it. So as always, before I could ask you to do any of the things that I'm asking you to do, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. And those 3 things are: live life authentic. I greatly appreciate you today. I greatly appreciate you every day, but I really appreciate the fact that you have come on this channel today and listened to me thus far. And if you didn't already like, share, and comment, I'm going to absolutely ask you to do that now. Also subscribe. I haven't said that in forever, and you guys have been awesome in subscribing. And to be perfectly honest, I'm super excited at where I am. I love the growth. I love the support. So don't get me wrong. This is not like a ploy to just say hit the subscribe button. But if you have been here this long, you know you could do me that solid and go ahead and hit that button. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will see you later in the week. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.